Don't like what he wrote, don't agree with what he wrote, think he's a nasty little piece of work, wouldn't have written it myself. I don't think he should have a criminal conviction, though. Do you?
Absolutely not. I mean, it was a horrible tweet, and Captain Sir Tom Moore is loved across the nation for very good reason.
I mean, what's not
And
to like about Tom Moore?
exactly, everyone likes Tom Moore, so the tweet is very shocking. It's very disturbing, and I can understand why some of the people who saw it felt upset. I can understand that tweet would make them feel uncomfortable or distressed or whatever else. But the idea that someone should be taken to court and put on trial and convicted of a crime for writing something down, that is far more disturbing. And I think it's really is a black mark on this country that people can be arrested and convicted for being offensive. Now, there are discussions to be had about how much people are allowed to incite certain forms of hatred and certain forms of violence in particular. That's a very interesting area where we talk about where speech crosses the line into something else. But when we're talking about simply causing offence, then it is absolutely paramount that we defend people's right to do that, even people who say disgusting things like
Well, indeed,
this.
it depends, whose offence. We can all be pretty offended by that, and I think any right-thinking person was. I don't like that person. I wouldn't want to be friends with that person. I'm not sure I'd stay friends with them if they'd written it and they stood by it, if they had that thought. But that doesn't mean that you should face a criminal conviction for it, and that's the key thing about free speech. Everyone agrees with free speech until it's something they disagree with, and the whole point of free speech is that people can say things you don't like, that you are offended by, and that you that they still don't face a charge. And this is where we get into territory where we had so much of our free speech taken away in recent years, these attempts to sort of stop horrible things happening online, abuse of people. But that also goes along the lines of even things like me saying that men can't become women. That's offensive to some people. So should I be convicted of a crime for a hate crime apparently against trans people for stating what I believe to be a biological fact? It's a very slippery slope, and we'll eventually all be caught by it.
Exactly right. You said this earlier. Who gets to define what is grossly offensive? There are people out there who think it is grossly offensive to suggest that someone who has a penis is a man and not a woman. They think that is grossly offensive. I think it is biological truth. I think it's a reasonable, truthful, scientific comment. So, one person's grossly offensive comment is someone else's deeply held moral conviction or scientific reality. So we can't allow this subjective category of offence to define what people are allowed to say and what they're not allowed to say. And it's these cutting edge cases like this in which people really do say something unpleasant that we have to hold the line. Because if we allow this idiot to be convicted, then it really does throw open the floodgates even more to the persecution and prosecution of other people who say supposedly offensive things. We need to stop this now.
This is where, the ACLU in America defending the right of neo-Nazis to march through a Jewish town. Horrific. Don't like it. Horrible. Would have been offended by it. Many of those working at the ACLU at the time being Jewish themselves. But defending that fundamental right, because if we don't defend the rights of the people we disagree with, we don't really believe in free speech at all. Brendan O'Neill, editor of Spiked Online, thank you very much indeed for that.